All right. I call to order the Recreation Advisory Board meeting of June 16th, 2022 at 2 p.m. A motion to approve the agenda as written. Moved by Brandon, seconded by Chris. All those in favor? And that carries. Okay, are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? Seeing none, can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the Recreational Advisory Committee meeting from May 26, 2022? Motion to receive as information. Moved by Councillor Pampasset and seconded by those in favor. And yeah, okay, that carries. Item 7.1, the ICE allocation policy draft letter. So I drafted this letter on our previous meeting, and we wanted to go over it in this meeting with you here and see if there's anything that you have to add for comments to the ICE allocation policy, and try and refine this so that we can get it moved ahead to council so they have our opinion and comments on the draft policy. Oh, Jamie is here. Hi, Jamie. Thanks for joining us.
Hello. Apologize for missing last week. I got roped into some stuff at work and couldn't sneak off.
Life happens.
Yeah, it does.
So we're just on our first agenda item, the ICE allocation policy draft letter. So we did have some discussion in our last meeting, and I took some notes from that discussion and drafted this letter to forward to council. This is just a very rough draft. We're looking for some comment from Jamie and Ryan specifically, and everyone else. If there's things that need refined, I will pretty it up a bit. But does anyone have any comments that they want to start with?
I'll go after
Linda?
Oh, thank you. Okay, you were sure. Okay, I want to start right at the start. 2.2, the ICE allocation distribution. Okay, how did we rank that Norfolk County Recreation ICE programs? Yeah, what does that mean? I want to go right through this one because I'm not happy.
That was where we were discussing the public skate sort of.
Is that what Norfolk County Recreation ICE program is? Nikki, is that what that means? That means just public skating?
Through you, Madam Chair. Yes, absolutely, Councillor Van Andrieschie. The recreation programs would include anything in regards to public skates, any of the shinny type ice, any of those programs that we allow all the community to come out and utilize the facilities.
So what?
This Saturday would be on Community Day.
Yeah.
Norfolk County gets dibs.
Yeah. Well, shinny hockey shouldn't come ahead of, the community ice, but it's included. Anyway, the idea of how we've got it allocated, how much public skating takes up how much time, Nikki? Do we have an estimate of that? I can't remember what we said last time. We had it down. It's on this chart from whenever.
Yeah, it is on the stats. Last year, the difficulty is, Councillor Van Andrieschie, we've had so few standard years in the last 3 that it's really difficult to say. And last year's ICE allocation, because of the whole new Norfolk minor hockey group and not knowing exactly what their needs were, and between all the minor hockeys and our adult users, we didn't utilize a whole lot of public skating time. We would really love to provide at least a couple of hours of public skates, parent and taught skates, that sort of thing in all of our facilities. Now, the parent and taught skates won't be an issue because they're usually during the time where nobody else is going to utilize the ice. So that's usually not an issue. The issue comes when it comes to the public skates, because a lot of times we want to have public skates when it's convenient for families and for everyone to be able to attend. So that would be a Saturday or a Sunday or an evening on a Friday night or something along that line. So the difficulty, if we don't put those in first, then it's hard to slot them in afterwards, because usually what ends up happening is that minor hockey and figure skating get all the great times, and what's left over we try to plunk in something, and what we want is consistent time, so everybody knows that, you know, Waterford Arena has this hour on this day all season long, and, you know, Delhi has this and Langton has this, and we can make it so that every arena has a different night or a different time, so that it gives the opportunity for the whole general public to attend any one of the skates at any one time. So in the last season, the difficulty we ran into was after we had scheduled all the minor hockey and figure skating, we had, you know, an hour here and an hour there, but a lot of times those hours were all at the same time. So if you had looked at our public skating advertising back then, it was like we had public skates offered in Port Dover and Waterford and Simcoe all at the same time, all during the same hour, which really makes no sense, because you're divvying up everybody all into different arenas instead of putting them into one. Whereas if we could, you know, meet the needs of each community with an hour or two every week at different times, then people can go to any one of our facilities at any time to get that public skate, and we'd be able to meet the needs. But again, the only way we can do that is to slot those in and take those hours out of the allocation process first.
Okay, and then you prioritized, next one was the tournament and special events. What tournaments do we run? What type of tournaments are you talking about? That calendar?
Yeah, they're not our tournaments. Those would be the tournaments that minor hockey or the carnivals that figure skating, that was always one of our first priorities. We always took those out of the mix first. So it's just kind of moving that Norfolk County program to the top of the pack, that's all.
Okay, and this is kind of the way it was before as well. Like, I mean, when we looked at last time, right? And then you've got the youth sports organization, that must be your minor hockey programs and your figure skating programs. Okay.
And girls hockey, correct.
And girls hockey, yeah, don't forget, I want to try to get that in there. Organized youth groups and junior hockey organization, that's the other. Is that what you mean?
Yes, okay. So junior would come after the minor hockey, figure skating, girls hockey, correct.
Okay, and then recreation youth groups within Norfolk County. Do you mean, like, is that high school hockey? Oh, no,
high school hockey is identified on their own. That would be other organizations, or like we've got we've got the sledge hockey groups, and we've got a number of different, off the top of my head, I can't think of it at the moment, but we have a few other organizations that utilize the ice on a regular basis.
Okay, and then the Board of Ed and then other adult youth groups, occasional commercial areas. Okay, so then you're left with what's left. Okay. Okay. I'll let someone else take over next.
Just through the chair, question for you, Nikki. With those Norfolk County recreational ice programs, I totally agree with you with having like a set time and whatnot, but how flexible are they when, because I don't know if it was reading in here if it was at the end where I was talking about other municipalities, but how flexible are they if a tournament, say a youth tournament comes in, or even let's say, you know, through the Board of Education, because I teach and I coach a hockey team and I want to run a tournament, how flexible are you guys with possibly moving one so you can accommodate a user that's willing to pay, you know, because I know a constant theme has been we need to maximize, you know, dollars, but at the same time have to balance needs of community and whatnot. I don't know if there's anything in here about that flexibility. Like I said, I think I read something that it won't be moved, but is there a way to have wording in there that under special circumstances it can be moved? Because I know you don't want to the consistency is nice for parents because parents like schedules and they know when it is, right? And when people kind of plan their day out, they know it's going to be there. And I get people do get upset with things getting changed. But I think people would be quite understandable if it's changed for a reason such as that, or if there's proper communication out about it. And I'm just curious if there is wording in here that I don't know if I saw it or not about flexibility that way, if that's something that there could be worked in or not.
Through you, Madam Chair. The policy, I believe, states in there that we will not cancel public skates for tournaments. However, saying that, I mean, I think it would depend. And the reason I kind of stammer on it is because I get what you're saying, but the difficulty is if we canceled public skate. So if we assigned that we were going to have public skating every Saturday at 2:00 in the afternoon, and then we schedule in tournaments. Well, if every group has a tournament and then we have a few additional tournaments, you're looking at pretty much every weekend throughout the season that there wouldn't be public skating. So Saturdays and Sundays are the main public skate type of days. We would try to work around those, and we would work with the organizations, and hopefully that we'd be able to still have that hour and have a block, within the tournament that the public skate could happen and could still go on. But I'm not saying that we wouldn't work with groups. But when it's consistent and it's adamant and it's black and white that there won't be any changes, then there's no confusion and there's no ability for somebody to say they're getting preferential treatment or not, right? So I guess that is the discussion that we can still have.
Yeah, so the ability is there if there's conversation. It's just you like to have that to be able to, I get that. And during the week would probably be a little bit more flexible, like the sticks and pucks and parents and tots than I get on the weekend, so, okay.
Nikki, on that, I'm just wondering, would it be something agreeable to staff to have something in here that gives a bit of flexibility, not to cancel public skates for tournament, but maybe the wording of rescheduling, because then it's just changing maybe the date for one specific event, hopefully. Not too many requests, but what do you think?
For you, Madam Chair. The difficulty with that again is if you say reschedule, you are rescheduling to another weekend, which would already have a public skate or something going on at that time. I mean, there could be a flexibility that if, maybe it's normally at 2:00, but maybe it's going to be at 7:00, or maybe it's going to be at 10 a.m. or maybe we can put wording in that we would work with the tournament organizer to still allow that hour of public skate, but maybe throughout at a different time period during that tournament time. I don't know if that's something that would be agreeable to the committee.
If I could, Madam Chair.
Yes, go ahead, Councillor Van Passen.
I just want to get a little bit more clarity from Nikki. Are we looking at, you want public skating in the prime time hour? Because we can ready a slot all we want between 8 a.m. and 3 p.m. That's not a problem. Are you looking at 1 hour per week at every arena? Like, if you're working on a schedule to say, look, on Wednesdays at 6:00, we have public skating in the Langton Arena. Thursday at 6:00, it's in Delhi. Friday at 6:00, it's in Simcoe. Saturday at 6:00, it's Waterford. And Sunday at 6:00, it's Dover. If that's the schedule you're looking at, I think it's a lot easier to deal with tournaments because, even if you lose the hour, because public's going to skate on for an hour, but it's coming and you know which arena's on which days. And you know what, if it doesn't work on the weekends where they just say Waterford and Dover are the ones who have the public skating, well, with the schools, you can schedule that tournament out of Simcoe, out of Delhi, out of more than one. And as long as that set schedule's in there, I said, I've seen tournaments, it wouldn't hurt anything if the public got to use it. Maybe that's just between the semifinals and the finals, and one team needed the break anyway, right? So, but if you know that it's set that way, you can work around it as long as you know that. So I don't really have a problem with that set schedule, and it's not going to change. And so what? The tournament you stop for an hour. but you will know that a year ahead of time already, so.
That is currently how it's been working, and we have been continuing in most cases with the public skates, and the minor hockey groups have been very acceptable to that. So I don't see it being as a huge issue. But it is the big thing is, Councillor Van Passen, is exactly what you're saying. As long as we know what hour is in which facility, we can work around it. We could also, as Kate's indicated too, we could end up, you know, if the tournament was scheduled in Dover and Saturday in Dover was an hour of ice, that maybe we could move it to another facility and promote that other facility if it's available. So
I think you mentioned before was, you know, we had the public skating, but, you know, 3 arenas were open on the same day at the same time.
Yeah.
correct.
So once the public will get used to it very quickly, that any night of the week I want to go skating, I can do that at 6 o'clock at night. I just have to check which arena I'm driving to.
Right, exactly.
So we have a great improvement right there. That'll keep a lot of people happy right off the bat.
Mhm.
And maybe they won't notice some of the other things that we're going to take them off.
No.
Chris, did you have your hand up as well?
Me, no.
No, okay. Linda?
I'm with Nikki. We've done it for years and I've run a lot of tournaments. And if there's public skating, we wait the hour. They come in, kids come in, or the parents are usually in our demographic, there's a lot of young people on a Saturday night. They come in, they take the hour, and then we just keep going again. So I'm not averse to leaving it in and scheduling, let the tournament schedule around it. I've had to do that many a time and it works. But maybe with high school, I don't know. But I know.
More than a week, right? Those
Yeah,
ones
you're
during those hours, if you were to run it, those are the ones, because I know even with like the way that the leagues have run in our when it was not, so Norfolk schools, but now it's gone to incorporate, it's called Aben now, so it's all Grand Erie, but we still kind of operate as Haldeman and Norfolk. It's complicated because you're dealing with different municipalities and different policies with ice, but when we went away from, because I used to convene it, we went away from doing after school hours and they went to these tournament days. Dealing with the county, as soon as they heard tournament, there was a big thing about, okay, now we weren't making money, they were league play. And they're just trying to consolidate because of this and that. And I have tried before to, even just with that, you're trying to use different arenas because, you know, Valley Heights, you know, we want to utilize, okay, we want to use Langdon for a day, so then Valley Heights doesn't have to take a bus. We want to use Port Dover for a day, so then they don't have to take, well, when it was Port Dover, but not there anymore. But you try to spread it around, but it was a real hard time because there would be, say, a parent in top skate or something like that the county wouldn't really be flexible and move. They've always been great and we end up working it out, but that's and then if we ever move this, because I think I commented 2 meetings ago about possibly wanting to try to run a tournament, but it's always been not affordable because even looking at the ice times, you all of a sudden, I don't know, I think instead of it being non-prime, it goes up to even $135 an hour to things. So when with costs and everything, I get it, but at the same time, you're also, these are members of your community. We're trying to bring outside schools into our community, so there's a residual economic impact. We're limited to do that because really a school can't afford to pay, you know, $600-700 for a team to go to a tournament anymore, right? Like it's just bus costs this year alone are, it's crazy. So that's what I was more, I get the weekend stuff, I'm sure tournaments have done that, and I don't see a problem with that.
Is there a possibility then to make some sort of arrangement? Because it's Board of Ed, you know what I'm saying? Because I think under normal circumstances, the minor hockeys that we've always been involved with, we work around that public skating time, but I understand their dilemma, and sometimes I think that's very important that they get it in the school time block, and I understand that. So they have some restrictions just right off the bat versus what we would have in a regular hockey situation. If there's a way to accommodate that, that might help.
And it's not a tournament, it's just regular league.
It's regularly played that.
We do it all in one day, that's all.
Yeah,
that's what I said.
Regular rate.
Get it in there.
Yeah.
No, with that joint use agreement, we're very fortunate with that. I think we pay a very, very small fee, but if we were to run a tournament, an actual tournament brings outside schools in, for sure we should be paying, you know, for ice and whatnot, but again, you need to run it within the school day, so,
So, yeah,
you know, you know, what's available, what's not available, because there is ice maintenance and all that stuff, so it's, yeah, it's fun stuff.
All right.
Can always work and collaborate.
yeah, as long as there's some version of collaboration that can be included in that.
All right. What's next?
I don't use his little plans.
Through you,
So,
the chair.
One so I know we want to add in some flexibility around the public skates. So I made a note of that. Oh, Julie, you got your hand up there. Oh,
I'm just putting my hand up when members here.
okay.
Oh,
She's
she's taking care of us.
Through you, the chair, to Nikki, what is it, like the one tournament per season in their home rink, so does that mean an organization, and I don't know if it's really happened before, but does that mean an organization is really actually only supposed to be limited to, say, run, like, you know, Del Highlights, for example, they can only run the Tobacco Town tournament and that's their one organizational tournament, or can they run, because that's, I think, usually to Adam Peewee, I think that, well, now it's U11, U13. So can they technically, is that limiting them to maybe want to run a Bantam midget tournament or you know, a jamboree for the U8s and below? Is that limiting that, or is that, like, I'm just curious, just clarification on what the one tournament per season in their home rink means.
Through you, Madam Chair.
2.2.2 in
The one.
Sorry, go ahead, Nikki.
The one tournament would be exactly what you're saying. Each organization would be allowed one full tournament for the year. So depending on, you know, what organization, doesn't matter, and that would give them full use of the rink for all weekend long, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whatever they needed. That's their tournament. It doesn't stop them from having the jamborees or the smaller things, but it would be done within their own ice time allocations at that point.
Okay.
Now, that doesn't mean that if an organization has had 2 or 3 tournaments and they've been grandfathered in, the policy speaks to the grandfathering in of tournaments, so that if it's a tournament that's been here for past practice, it would continue to stay there. And the other piece to that is that I do really need to identify is in the home rink. So we have a number of organizations who want to have all their tournaments, but they want to take over all rinks. So that would really impact the different organizations. If we give one organization all 3, 4, 5 rinks to run a tournament, it really impacts the other organizations, and the requests have happened. So it is an issue that we do need to address, especially now with Norfolk minor hockey.
Yeah.
There's the issue, yeah.
There's the issue.
There's the issue.
Oh, I can see that, and I can see why I want to do that, because that's something that also has been a thing that's come across, is to run like the Vic Gibbons or the Golden Gardens tournament used to run. I know he used to run it too, but that was a gigantic tournament, and obviously, again, those tournaments bring in that outside, you know, the residual impact on the economy, the local economy, of all that outside dollars coming in, right? The hotels, the, you know, eating out and all that stuff. Like, it's nice. I can get why probably that organization wants to do something like that, to run a large tournament. You'd hope if somebody like that's running a large tournament, that also the other local organizations would be involved in it as well, like in terms of at least participation at the very least. But I do see where, you know, that organization, because they already utilize 3 arenas as it is. Well, actually 4, because I know they do development out in Langton as well. So I think Delhi is the only one they don't really get a lot of ice at. But yeah, I was just curious that, because that's even gone through my head, being involved with Delhi minor hockey, if you could run a larger tournament, because obviously with one pad in one area, you are a little bit limited in the number of teams you can accommodate, because hockey takes so long to play and you have so long this and that. So if you can utilize more than one rink to host a larger tournament, really what that does is, I know it's a pain in the butt for other organizations, but it does bring in a lot of money to our area, right? And that's kind of.
Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. You could
Yeah.
collaborate and say, Delhi wants it, or Delhi, I can't, any of these three, they're already preoccupied.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Langton's available for that kind of thing, so.
But I think that's a collaboration between the minor hockey organizations that would need to happen and be like, yeah, okay, we're okay with you. Not on you guys saying, hey, we're gonna take your ice, because I think that puts you guys in a bad spot. Right?
Go ahead.
Well, historically, with the Golden Gardens, that's always over the Christmas break from school. So that's part of it, that they get dibs on that time slot, not necessarily the ice time, but.
No, they also
Not
have
to book some other tournament in when they've had it for the last 50 years.
Yeah, for sure.
Nikki, go ahead.
Through you, Madam Chair. Ryan, you've hit the nail on the head, and that is exactly what we are really hoping for will happen is that we foster the collaboration between the other minor hockey groups, because that would be the best situation, that if all the minor hockey groups wanted to run a mass tournament, that would be wonderful, because you're right, the economic spin-off and what it could do to the county would be fabulous, but you would require the collaboration between the different minor hockey groups. So
For sure. For sure.
Brantford would be happy because they're the closest hotels.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, right.
That's all there.
Okay. Ryan, I know you're kind of bouncing back and forth a bit, like the draft ice allocation policy and the draft letter. If you look at the draft letter under the 2.2 allocation distribution, is there any other comments that you have for that section, or are you willing to move on to 2.2.4?
No, I'm okay, right? Like I just, I get what tournaments do, right? Because usually tournaments in one arena, usually you can only focus on 2 age groups, so then it does cause, so I get the one main tournament unless it's grandfather. Tournaments are great for bringing in people from outside, and that's where the local businesses really get their bang for the buck in terms of their sponsorships and stuff, right? Because hopefully people are spending money in those businesses that are, promoting and supporting our local youth, right? So tournaments is never a bad thing, but I do get the frustrations or the hiccups that it can cause with the groups, right? So.
You gotta get it.
Linda?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Have you bounced any of this off with the organizations? Have you gone through this, Nikki, with the organizations? Or have you gone like kind of an overview?
through you, Madam Chair. This policy, I think I reiterated this at the last meeting, Linda, but I will say it again. What happened was this policy was redrafted a couple of years ago. And it was shared with all the organizations at that time, and we went through it completely with them and made some changes to meet their needs. It never was brought to council at that point in time because our general manager had some reservations about bringing it forward at the time, and it just kind of ended up sitting at that point. So since then, and since we've had the drop in the number of ice pads, and since we've had the new Norfolk Minor Hockey Organization, we took a secondary look at it and made some further changes. So the whole process phase was we were going to bring it to RAC for you guys to take a good look at it and get your comments so that we had something to think about. And then we were going to meet with all our user groups. We were going to disseminate it out to all the groups, give them a couple of weeks to look at it. And then we were going to have a meeting with them to discuss any of their comments, concerns. And then we would go back and as the team, we would look at it and see whether or not, we could accommodate, if it made sense, and go through all of that. We completely want the community and our organizations involved because they need to also be able to buy in. Yeah. So, and just so you guys are aware, we do have a meeting set up next week with figure skating clubs because the figure skating clubs have always been the organization that kind of just got whatever was left over, and they would always work with minor hockey because minor hockey required so much more. Our figure skating clubs are really starting to take off, and they're really starting to need the ice as well. So we are sitting down with each one of those. We've got a user group meeting I want to say it's Monday. I'd have to look at my calendar for sure. And everyone's going to be represented. And we've given them a few ideas on how we're looking at wanting to allocate based on formulas and different things. And we're going to get their feedback and their discussion on it as well. And then we'll move to the minor hockey group.
Okay. I'm pleased to hear that prior to it coming to council. All of this has to be had a good discussion with everybody. Communication is the big key here, because times have changed since the first time you went through this. COVID has hit. A lot of the numbers are down. OMHA's made some changes as well. Like, say for instance now, because we were struggling with numbers in our demographics in, say, in the Langton arena, I don't think we're going to see a rep team come out of Langton anymore for a while. I think most of it's going over to Delhi.
They're gonna run a U9 MD team, which is another. OMHA is renamed all these things.
What is
U9 is basically.
Under 9 years old, yeah.
Yeah, U9 it's a rep team,
Okay,
but OMHA is renamed it MD. It's a minor. They've renamed everything.
I know, it's
It's crazy, and they have pulled back their OHF. OHF has pulled back the vaccine policy, which hopefully will come some friends, but.
Yeah, I don't get that, but-
I don't know who's doing what, but nevertheless. So to me, there's a lot of different nuances happening here at the same time. We've had COVID, and that's a big factor on many arenas, okay? The numbers have, and I think to your point, Mike, OMHA had said if you're not vaccinated, you can't come on the ice, blah, blah, blah. So we lost a lot of kids over that as well. So now there's a comeback situation, right? But I do know that I don't think you're gonna see, like I say, in some arenas, you're not gonna see many rep teams in every division. And then you have the Norfolk League as well. So you have to look at that in the big picture too. There's a lot of changes there. Numbers are down, people are coming back. You have to estimate a little higher, or you gotta do this. So I think that has to be taken into account when you're discussing this with all the different minor hockeys. Because there's some unique situation. I know there's discussion with, say, are they totally content with the Norfolk hockey? Are some arenas saying, hey, wait a minute now, I'm rethinking this. And you can't get another, I don't know how many more teams. Delhi's full. Delhi's is to capacity. You know what I mean? And that's beautiful, you know, but I think communication is the key. I don't want anybody to feel this is being shoved down their throat, because you're going to get bad feedback from the public, and you are going to get. Were you in Langton? You were in Langton that day. Don't push the buttons of country folk.
Don't mess with the West End.
Don't mess with country folk, because it's not fair. So you be very cautious in what you do. Think, talk, because.
I think it was stated at OMHA that they saw a 20% reduction across the board. Like you said, I think you'll see it rebound now. So.
Yeah, I thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. Are you still involved with the OMHA and all that stuff?
Yeah, I'm on the executive.
It's been a while since I played that game. Right? How are the rules, like, at what point do we enter in discussion to merge Langton minor hockey, say, with Delhi to get the numbers up and work? I know that there's politics behind it, but what does it take from the OMHA point of view? Like, do they still have their circles around each arena and you've got to first go there, or have those rules been changed?
I don't know how to comment on this. I think they're not discouraging.
Just be blunt.
Well, I gotta be careful because I don't want to have misinformation. They're encouraging partnerships if partnerships are available, right?
Yeah.
Who you partner with, they're not telling you who to go with. That's on your own choice and accord. And at the same time, you can also stay on your own if you feel you're viable. Who knows? If you choose to stay on your own, they said that there'll always be a league to play in. Who knows what that league is? There's supposed to be a bunch of realignment and all this movement, but like this year, for example, there were teams that were moved up that are going to move up in 2023 to be a larger center, even though they haven't increased registration. It's like they're reshuffling things or realigning things to, just in the document, it was to promote more equal play in a way, I guess you could say. So there were B centers in 2023, this isn't this year, in 2023, there might be some B centers that move down to C, B centers that move up to A, C that goes to D, D that goes to local league, so the rep rights might be taken away.
They basically,
There's still a lot of unknowns.
they kind of sort of want to get rid of the tiny little hometown hockey, which is unfortunate.
It's the feeling, but I hope small town pushes back.
I do
think they
too.
will.
Like there was some discussion pre-COVID about, Langton, the numbers weren't there to have a rep team in all divisions, but there definitely were kids there who deserved to play on a rep team at that level. And there was some discussion of maybe the rep teams all coming out of Delhi, but these ones would be able to play on there, but then House League would be more.
So there's always movement, right? It's called a 3.5. If your organization isn't able to field, you can go to the next closest
But
center.
part of that is you got to move some of the other ones that are not going to make the rep teams to fill up the teams that you're losing.
Yeah.
Right? So you need that cooperation.
That's cooperation,
Yeah,
right,
that's
that's
not
what you
the
need.
county's job.
No.
You don't, yeah, no, you shouldn't.
If those options exist, then those discussions
It's a
start.
very
Makes Nikki's job a lot easier.
Been there, been around.
I'm sure you had a conversation.
Hey, folks, we're gonna be here all night.
Take charge, Madam Chair.
So, for the draft letter, first off, does anyone have any issues with any of the wording or any of the notes in the draft letter that needs amended? Linda?
2.3, in the entitlement, the sampling thing, I don't like that at all. I don't see what you're doing, and what the first visual is here, you are penalizing small centers. You're discriminating against small centers, and I don't like that, and it'll go over like a lead balloon out in the public, and then you're gonna have battle. So you can't do that. I think talking it through and working it out is much better than putting something like this down on paper and getting everybody ticky off. Like, you know what I mean?
Nikki?
For you, Madam Chair. Linda, the example, that was the example, one option, and I think we've talked about it a little bit already. In regards to it's not going to penalize an organization that has fewer members, because as long as if we allocate based on number of teams, doesn't necessarily have to be number of registrants. And I think you and I spoke about this, about whether a team has 6 players, whether you've got 15 players, it's still a team. So that team is still going to get, 1 hour of game time and 1.5 hours of practice time a week. It would be based on the total number of teams, not necessarily the total number of registrants.
Yeah, but whatever you're writing is if 60% of available ice time, a prime time, and I understand that. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to these minor hockeys and say, you might have had 20 hours a week of prime time, and that was what you needed. Now, because we got this into the bylaw or the example here, it reduces that. And I don't know if that's fair, because a small center only using small amounts, I mean.
But what we've presented though is that was what was in the original draft. So what we've presented in this case is a preferred option of option 2. So not that percentage that you're seeing at the very beginning. It would be based on the total number of teams, not based on the number of registrants.
Ryan?
Through you, the chair, I honestly, I with Linda here, this is a big stickler for me, because here is the county, the way this is broken down. You're telling a minor hockey organization how to allocate their ice.
Yeah.
And that's not the county's business, I don't feel. They're a user, they pay for the ice. Do we tell a private group that pays, whatever for the ice, do we say you have to have a minimum of, you can only have an hour of ice if you have 30 participants, or you get so much ice-based participants? We don't, right? And these smaller organizations are trying to build programs, right? And if they're paying, what if you take that ice away and you end up not actually renting that ice anymore? And that ice is not, available to them to what they've traditionally done. As long as they're paying their bills, I don't see why we're trying to, I get, again, with the other user groups, but I don't like this breakdown of U5, you get 1 hour per 30 participants. Like, you can't, you know, like even Delhi has a large thing, right? Like a good membership, you know, so then if we only have, you know, I don't know, 20 participants, then do we, I don't like, I'm sorry, I'm mumbling. But that to me is you're interfering with minor hockey's way of how they want to operate, and each organization might operate their development in a different way. Right? Like, especially with this whole half ice, full ice thing, like that's a juggling act in its own. And sometimes, you know, a group is away playing a game, so there's actually full ice available for a group that might usually share. And I think the organizations have done a great job with utilizing the ice that's available to them, and making the best use out of it with the teams. But again, I don't want to be telling organizations how to allocate their ice and for what team and for how much time you get for them, personally.
Okay. Through you, Madam Chair. I hear what you're saying, Ryan, and I just want to be clear that we're not trying to, that isn't the intent. So the difficulty that we face right now is we have 5 ice pads with only X amount of prime time hours. Yep. We have requests coming in from every organization, and you're right, each organization operates differently. And I'm not saying we can't work with organizations, because for the most part, Lisa works, our facility booking clerk works wonderfully with all our organizations. The difficulty becomes when those organizations start asking for more ice than what we have. We need something in place to be able to determine, you know what, you've asked for all of this and we don't have all of this, but now we've got a standard that we can say and look back to that says, you know what, you've got 20 teams, you've got, you know, 3 in this division, 4 in that division, and allocate and come up with something that actually works for. And that's why we're going to have that community engagement and talk to those organizations to see what those numbers actually look like. What was included in this is kind of a sample, and where that sample was pulled from was many municipalities. There is almost, I can guarantee you, maybe 1 or 2 municipalities that I know of that don't have some form of an allocation process. And I'm not saying that it has to be this way, because we can be different. And as Norfolk County, I want to do what's going to make it best for our organizations, because they're the ones that need the ice, and the kids are the ones that are going to be penalized if we don't, right? So we do want to work with the organizations, and we will be manipulating and working with them to come up with an idea that actually works for everybody. This is a sample of an ice allocation formula. It's not saying that this is what we're going to implement. It's just saying that we need something in place, because right now we don't have that. I think, does that help to understand?
It just means that big gets more and small gets less.
Well, not necessarily, Linda. And I think because you and I had that conversation yesterday about LinkedIn, and I mean, if LinkedIn comes in and they've got, you know, X amount of hours is what they want, chances are they're going to get every single one of those hours, because there isn't that demand for moving out to that ice location. So we will continue to work with those groups. Where we struggle right now is the Port Dover, the Simcoe, the Waterford area. Delhi's getting pretty full, and that's because we keep seeming to get other organizations that want to come in. But that's why the allocation process is important as well. So we go through our allocation process before any new team is permitted to come in. So if we can stick with something like that, I think we're still going to be okay.
I don't like the version.
Thank you, Madam Chair. When I looked through this, I thought that, maybe I'm reading it wrong, but it actually gives the smaller groups more opportunity to get ice time. Like 30 years ago, you had minor hockey and you had figure skating. Now we have hockey, 2 levels of minor hockey, and we have figure skating, we have girls hockey. I don't think we have ringette, but Alderman and Elgin both have ringette. Mm-hmm. So this allocates at least some of those prime time hours on a percentage basis that everybody's going to get something. And like minor hockey would get some, and if that doesn't fit what the number of hours they historically had, then they have to start looking at non-prime hours, other than saying, okay, minor hockey gets all the hours they used to get, and the new girls hockey team gets nothing. They can go to the girls now going to get some of the prime. So I think it's the intent, and when I read it, that's what I got, that every group is going to get a certain percentage of the prime time hours. Might not be as much as you got in the past, might not be the same hours, but you're going to get something in there. And then we look at plan B, which is the non-prime hours, right? And yeah, before COVID, we were looking at only 60% usage of those prime time hours across the board. That's why we ended up taking the ice out of the rec center, because we needed to get at minimum 80% usage, and it's still not fully used of the prime time hours, right?
Let's talk about what prime time hours
Yeah.
are and how they're interpreted.
Yeah, that's the whole key.
There's some skewing
Yes.
there, to be honest.
Well, I think because by bumping it, what are they going to be now? They're going to be from 5 until 10:30 or something? We had,
We'll probably talk about that
yeah,
a little bit,
but
but
the one time they talked about moving it. As soon as school's done, they'll become prime time hours, right? So,
to touch on what you were saying there about, so the new Norfolk organization now has 12 rep teams. But previously, like you're saying back in the day, those three organizations actually had 18 in total, because they have 6 in each
That's right.
group. So actually the number of rep teams has decreased from where it was
we
before.
had that debate with them, and they.
Right. Well, I know that they do a great job of it, that they're adding development time, right? And I know that's what they want, right? And I'm sure that's
Lots of 7 o'clock in the morning space available.
well, yeah, hey, there is,
If that's
right?
serious
But if
about
that's the
hockey,
caliber of where they are, then that's the time they take. Done, agree with it.
Please,
Sorry,
guys.
Karen.
Sorry, you're cutting out a bit, Madam Chair.
Oh, here, I'll try taking the speaker. Better?
That's actually just a sensor cutting out the bad words.
You guys are all quieter for me now, though. Nikki, go ahead.
For you, Madam Chair. Councillor Van Passen, you have hit the nail on the head on this one, because that is the intent, is to actually equalize things better. And it's not to take things away from the smaller organizations. It's actually going to help the smaller organizations. You are right. The second is it's going to give us that ability to determine what the actual needs are. So if we have a standard developed, and like I said, work with the organizations to develop that standard, then we know that, local league needs this many of hours for development, as well as their games and everything. And then the higher caliber, the rep teams, they have this element that's what they require and that's what they want. It will help us to determine really whether or not we can accommodate everything that we currently have in our facilities. I really think we can, but if everybody is just able to throw in however many hours of ice they want and expect to get it, that's when we run into problems. And if we end up having more requests than the ice that we actually have available, we need a way of being able to say, well, time out. These guys also need ice. We need to be able to look at a formula, be able to say, okay, well, you guys get 15 hours. Here's your 15 hours. You as an organization figure out how you're going to fill those 15 hours. It's not meant in any way to take ice away or not give each organization and each area an equitable chance at getting what they need.
Can I give an example? Well, I don't, and really, it bugs me. Say for instance, let's take Langton as an example. How much prime time ice is there in a 7-day period?
So if we're using the 5 till 10, we're looking at 10 hours, Monday to Friday per week, plus, or sorry, you're looking at 20 hours, Monday to Friday, 5 times 5, 25, sorry, 5, I can't even do math today, 25 hours per week. And then you've got all day Saturday and all day Sunday. So arenas are typically open 6 in the morning till midnight, they could be. So those are all considered at this moment in time. Saturdays and Sundays, every single hour within those 2 days are considered prime time. The difficulty is that we get organizations that say, well, we don't want to even look at starting till 9 or 10 o'clock on a Saturday or a Sunday morning. Or we used to have prime time started at 4 o'clock and went till 11 o'clock. So we shortened it up because it was what the groups had wanted. And we were trying to allow for some other time in there where people may actually utilize that 4 till 5 or that 10 till midnight, because it would have been cheaper, because that's the difference between prime and non-prime is the cost of it. So by shortening up that prime section, those hours are what minor hockey and figure skating wants, and they're getting them at a subsidized rate anyways. The minor hockey group, or not minor hockey, the adult groups, if they want to utilize that time period, they're paying top dollar for that time period. But if we could get them to move into the 10 till midnight, then they get a lower rate. And we're hoping that they would move, but it hasn't happened. So instead, our adult groups,
But my point, Nikki, is you've got well over 50 hours in prime time. And say a small arena asks for prime time, they ask for 20 hours a week. Are they gonna get it?
I would expect so, absolutely.
I would expect so, because there is lots of space in there to fill in for somebody else. But if you've got it written this way, you could come back and say, wait a minute, you only get this percentage.
Okay, so I think maybe I do need to explain something a little bit more. So the way that the ice allocation process works is all of the requests come in. They get plotted out, and if we can fit them all in and there is absolutely no problems whatsoever, none of this would even matter. This would come into play when a problem exists, where we've got a number of organizations that all want the same time, or we don't have enough prime time or required time to be able to give to all our organizations. So at that point, the ice allocation policy would come into effect. We would look at the number of hours requested versus what our standard has been identified as, and see, you know what, okay, so this organization has requested 15 more hours than they actually meet the allocation standard. So we would take those 15 hours away, give them to the organizations that still need them because they haven't been able to meet their requirements. But we would work with the organizations, because a lot of times the organizations are fabulous. They work amongst themselves, they give up, they take, they work out most of the issues themselves. There's only a few times where we really have to get involved. And there's been times in this last ice allocation where there was a number of organizations, mostly adults, that did not get anything because there was nothing left. And when I say there's nothing left, there's still ice available. They just didn't want the times that were available. So it's again
within the prime time, and within the prime time.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, that's not like that.
Yeah. So that is the problem. So what happens is what we can do may not always work with the organizations either. So there has to be give and take with all the organizations, because just because what you want isn't necessarily going to be what we can actually give them. So having a standard that we can fall back on is the first thing that is our first defense when it comes to issues. So
So you take nothing into account if it's the hometown? Like, is that taken into account as well?
Well, it would depend, because we are all Norfolk County, right? So what?
Yeah, but the people of Norfolk know that arena.
Yes, I realize that, but we are Norfolk County and we are using Norfolk County taxpayer dollars. So we have to make our facilities accessible by all of Norfolk County residents to make it a fair process.
Adult leagues, because we were going to shut down a pad in Simcoe. That's where they were used to playing based out of Simcoe, but all the people playing were coming from all over, and half of them were coming from outside Norfolk. They couldn't get the ice time in Simcoe, and suggested, Nate, why don't you look at moving your whole league to play at Langton? There's lots of spots available, and they had never thought of that that, and they were gonna start looking into that because they could get all the times that they wanted to get out of Langton, they just couldn't get them in Simcoe. And they were all driving from different places anyway, so that didn't make a difference, but then COVID hit and all that sort of
Yeah.
stuff last.
That's my
We gotta
point
get
here.
those
COVID
discussions
is,
back.
yeah, we gotta get those.
We wanna use
discussions
all the
back.
arenas we have 100% of the time, and in the mathematical world of theory, the times and spaces are there.
Mhm.
We just gotta work it out so everybody fits their schedules as well.
So
Right.
to add the second part of that whole allocation process is after that initial allocation is completed, if there's still time available, it would go back to those organizations who've requested more time. They would then get to be able to determine whether or not they want to take any of these extra hours that are left over. So it's not saying they'd never get any more than what they've requested. It's just saying we need a process so that we can allocate fairly for everybody and then go to those secondary requests.
So there's some verbiage that way.
I think, and I don't envy you, Nikki, with regards to this, because just like Norfolk County, and I've always said, is very unique in terms of its geography and its unique niche communities. You also, like, looking at the back and comparing all these things, you know, there's a lot of large centers, but even something as large as, like, say, Aurelia or Caledon, Brant County, for example, they have one. We're just not talking about the girls hockey program, but in terms of minor hockey, the youth one, they have one minor hockey organization, right? Where we have one minor hockey organization for each arena that we have that you're trying to work with, right? So it's very, very unique in Norfolk. And I think what I'm gathering from what you're saying is this is kind of like a backup policy for you to kind of have in your back pocket to say, hey, you're asking for too much ice. This is how we're gonna lay out how, this is why we're saying you're asking for too much ice and we need to allow other people to give them some ice here. Is that what it is? It's kind of just like this isn't like, hey, we're gonna look at your registration numbers. This is how you're gonna run it. This is how much ice you're gonna have, and that's gonna be it. If everything is okay and kosher and it all works out, none of this even matters. It's only when there's a conflict that this comes into play.
That is 100% correct. Absolutely, 100%, Ryan. I'm open to suggestions if anybody has anything better, and that's why we do want to go to the user groups, because if somebody else has a different idea as to how it could work, we are open to suggestions. We're just starting because last year we did run into some of those issues. We do need to have something that we have black and white that our facility booking clerk can look at and go, this is what we need to do, and this is the only way it's going to work. It's not going to stop any communication between groups. It's just, this is where we need to go to take a look at our policy and just say, nope, this is how we need to do it this time, and hopefully move forward.
As long as it's step 2, not step 1, that's all I'm
Gotcha.
Yeah, because otherwise you upset so many people, it gets so ugly.
Alrighty, folks, any other comments on this?
I'm not sure which one to take.
So what I know Paul is not here as well. I don't want to slow this down too much. Like, we have to keep the ball rolling on this, but I'm sure everyone has a good opportunity to be really thorough with their input. Now, would it be something that, is it okay if we kind of fine tune this draft letter between our committee via email? And then we send it away once everyone's happy with it. Julie, is that something that we are able to do?
I'm gonna have to look at the terms of reference. You'll just give me a minute.
Nikki?
I guess my question to the committee and to you as the chair, is this something that the letter needs to go to council for? Is this something that, I mean, we're going to continue to work on this policy before it goes to the floor of council for council to deliberate. So I think, I mean, your letter, you've consolidated it, great. Paul also sent the information that he had talked about at the last meeting. we're going to take all of that into consideration as we finalize another draft. And after we've met with figure skating, after we've met with the minor hockey groups, what we can commit to do is bring that draft back to you guys again at the end, after we've gone through, considered all the comments and taken everything into consideration and rewritten. Then at that point, you guys would either say yay or nay, you agree to it, and then we would take it to council. So in the beginning, I was thinking, you know what, we need to keep pushing this, but we're in the process right now of allocating for September. So even if we make changes now, it's not going to get into effect to impact this 2022-2023 allocation process because we're already into it. So we've got time. We will make sure that all of that communication, everything is happening, and then we'll bring it back to the committee and get this in place for 2022-2023. No, wait a minute. What year are we in now? So we're going to get it implemented for September 2023. September 23, we would implement. So if that is okay by the committee, then I don't necessarily see the need for a formal letter to go to council at this time, because we still need to make some of those amendments and changes, but that's just my recommendation to you.
Should we maybe then just defer this until after staff has had a chance to consult with the user groups and comes back with an update? With no specific set date, just kind of when it comes up. Yeah. Oh, Ryan?
I think we're making some good conversation here. I wouldn't want to continue to defer, because I think there's some things that you might hammer out here just between us before even going to the user groups.
Yeah.
So we're here, we're going through it. We've all had a good read through it. This isn't our first time even reading through it. This is the first time I've had to comment on it, but I think we need to finish out going through these points, so it allows council also, or not, sorry, the county also, like Nikki, to move ahead with things. Because
she's got to talk to the user groups.
they got to talk to user groups, but things we might have suggestions through here might already answer things that the user groups might have. You know what I mean? Like it might just make less work for Nikki, or soften the work for Nikki. So
I'll take
I think we should continue on. We can. Was that?
Yeah. We can definitely continue on discussion. Councillor Van Passen, do you have your hand up?
Yes, I do, Madam Chair, and through you, I think there's no problem in saying this is the chair's summary of the discussions at this committee. That's not binding on anybody. It's not council direction. It's just a summary of the discussions thus far that Nikki can take with her when she presents the drafts to all the user groups and say, look, this is what the committee has touched on. This is the flaws they've already picked out. These are things that they support. We probably will end up with a typical letter just like this from the president of every one of those user groups. And then it's up to staff to take all of them and sort of form that into a draft that's going to show up about a year from now on a council and committee meeting, right? But to summarize it, the chair on behalf of this committee, it gives Nikki some help in her discussion to the other groups. Say, look, we've touched on it with this and this. So I think we can continue on if at the end of the day, fine tune this letter and recirculate it. Because again, it's just a summary of the discussions as you heard them. It's not a decision made by this committee. It's a summary of the chair. You can do that.
Okay, well, we'll continue on discussions then. If anybody wants to jump in with some comments, Ryan?
Yeah, 3.5. Nikki, I don't know if you have the stats or not, but how many hours, like on the weekends from 6:30 to 8 are being used? And same thing from, let's say, even 10 o'clock on Saturday and Sundays are being used.
I would have to go and pull some stats, and again, the last couple of years have not been the greatest, so it's
that's tough.
but I would probably tell you, depending on the rink, because each rink is different, most of the time Saturdays and Sundays are full. This past year we ran into some issues With one of our rinks, we had a lot of time that had been originally taken and then given back. So we did have some hours open that we tried to program and had put in some additional public skates or additional adult shinny or different things like that. But we do have a number of user groups who have been coming forward offering skills camps and things. So they've been picking up a lot of those hours that are given back by minor hockey. So Saturdays and Sundays are
Like
really not bad.
the 6:30 to 8 a.m. They're
Oh,
being
sorry,
utilized.
6:30 to 8
No,
a.m.
no, no, not the prime. The prime, no, the 6:30 to 8 a.m. and then the 12 on. I think I
Sorry,
made the suggestion. Yeah, I think I made the suggestion 2 things ago, you know, somebody paying something is way better than paying nothing.
Yeah.
And especially on the weekends, and I can speak to myself personally even, I would be much more intrigued to be renting the ice even from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. if you're paying non-prime rate, right? Because that's $80. But if I'm going in there and I'm paying $200, you know, I'm just thinking, this is just for me, and I know other people that I have discussions with in the community, right? You might want to, you know, rent the ice for, you know, 10 kids, 5 kids, whatever, to maybe run some sort of extra skills or something like that with them. That cost is much more appealing to me, because then all of a sudden when you get into $190 plus tax, what are you getting into, $214? That's me trying to get 20-something kids out there to make it, you know, to make it reasonable and worth my time. Because I don't want to make anything off it, but you got to get 21 kids and charge each kid $10 to break even there, right? So I'm just wondering if that could be looked at, that 6:30 to 8, and I know it's non-prime, I think it says during the week time, but those weekends, I wonder if that's a discussion to kind of to appease or to make more appealing to people to jump on it for that reduced rate. So, you know what I mean? So someone might want to rent it for 4 or 5 kids, right? Or even 3 kids or like 4 kids, it's $20 a pop to go out there and have a great, you know, on the ice. Like that might be much more appealing than, you know, $214 to rent the ice. Right? And again, like you said, it's not being rented. I know we practiced, I coached the U11 team this year. We practiced out like every other week at 8 a.m. in Delhi. There was nobody on the ice before us. All right, I always try to get there a little bit early and get good with the arena guys so you can go out there.
Yeah.
But, you know, there, yeah. But even the Saturday, Sunday, I don't know, I'd be interested, you know, the 12, right? Because even when you're running an adult program, like, you know, because I've been part of many leagues around here with that too, that extra little bit, I don't know, if they are being utilized, fantastic, then there's no need for it. But if they aren't, I think we need to look at, again, that prime versus non-prime times. Even if non-prime starts at 10, that little bit of ice cut off every, you know, little bit, we're at least getting money from it, like for the county, but the user is also saving a little bit to make things more affordable, because let's face it, everything is getting more and more expensive, and dollars and cents are coming into play whether people want to be involved in stuff or not. And we'd much rather have the ice being used and our community getting use out of it, because that contributes to a much healthier community, which has other impacts. But I just wonder if that's something that could be looked at to help, you know, make it more appealing, I guess you could say.
Through you, Madam Chair. Ryan, I love your out of the box thinking. I think that's a great idea. Again, it would be something that council would have to approve, a change within our prime time. This is the perfect time to do it within this policy. And if we can get support from this committee on something like that, I'd be all for it, because I agree that 6:30 till 9 or 6 till 9 in the mornings, we can't get minor hockey to take them anymore. And I mean, otherwise, you know, I think there is something in this policy too about talking about, you know, of their allotted hours of ice, that 5% of it must be in the non-desirable hours, which would be those 6 in the morning or later in the evening. The 10:30, we're still getting a lot of requests for minor hockey for up to 10:30 at night.
Oh, okay.
Which is good on one hand, but it really, really does hamper our ability to satisfy the adults as well, because it really starts to cut into their time. So I do like your thinking, and even the morning hours, the morning prime, and maybe that's something we can market to the minor hockey groups and the figure skating groups, like that morning non-prime or the morning prime rate is even less than what the minor hockey figure skating rate is. So maybe it's a way of, you know, helping the organizations too. If you take that time, it is at a cheaper rate. Yeah, I'd be all for asking for a change to non-prime hours to include that 6 a.m. till 9 a.m. on a Saturday or a Sunday, if that's something this committee thinks would be a good idea.
Staff's there anyway.
Yes, that's right.
It's staffed anyway.
Well, that, again, if we're doing it from a financial point of view, the best way for the county to make money is just not unlock the doors till 9 a.m. That, everything we do costs us money there, so it's a matter of, if we got staff there and nobody's using it, that's costing us money. If it's never being used, why are we even open at the time? So Nikki's job is to make sure that every hour of ice that we have staff working there is booked with somebody, and we're getting at least the $80 back, or the $150, or the $200. But it's when it sits empty with staff, that's where it costs money.
That argument kind of goes out the window when you're offering public seats.
Yeah, no,
Right?
Yeah,
That's,
yeah.
No, but that's,
you're okay with going $4, which I'm 100% behind, if you need that for the community, but
Yeah.
everything.
there is a trade-off, we are a service, we are,
And it costs
It's
money,
something
and it's the
it
balancing
does.
act, because you've got to balance in, I think you've touched on it, that the benefits to society as a whole. The
Yeah.
people, the population is healthier, so, okay, the province of Ontario is gonna save some money from their healthcare budget. The, kids who are involved in organized sports and things like that tend to have a lot less social problems when they hit their teenage years in their early 20s. So that helps the whole judicial system and that system. So yeah, it's money up front, but you're actually saving it down the road.
Yeah.
But there is an acceptable level of loss. That's what council gets to deal with.
Oh, yeah.
Of, again, that's why we have one less ice pad than we used to, because we were beyond what could be, in any logical mind, be considered an acceptable level of loss. We're still pretty high, but we're
I
not
know.
as bad as we used to be.
I could, but that feasibility study that was
Yeah.
done a long time ago, and we need a swimming pool and everything, but you wanna talk about loss. Right, we're not gonna go there, because swimmers are great, and we need the pool, and there's so much things to go there, but you also have to treat a lot of recreation, and hey, we do have lettermans that were built by community members before and whatnot. So if you go into it, how much money did Langton Arena cost municipality to build?
Zero.
So how far are you ahead? How
Yeah.
far are you ahead right off the bat from that, right? If you wanna
We
go,
got a million grant, and then
But-
we got the rest.
No, but we have, like, it's not just arenas, it's
No,
not
it's
just the
everything.
museums, it's the
Yeah.
arts center, all of those things.
We're off
cost
topic.
money. And where's the balancing act?
yeah, it is, and that's what you guys get tasked with, right? Because there are those intangibles that you service the community, and services cost money, right?
Sorry,
So,
I think the picture.
go ahead,
Hello.
Focus.
back to the ice.
Too much. All right,
Next
we gotta
time, we
stay-
expect striped shirts and whistle on you.
Yeah.
All right. So, well, I know a lot of us did get a chance to kind of speak to this. Like, I know Jamie and Ryan, like, this is kind of more your opportunity to talk and get your input as well. So is there anything else going through this policy, your next point?
Through you, the chair, the one thing I do see in 4.2, I get like 7 days is with actually these past seasons that we dealt with, right, with COVID, with teams having to cancel because of COVID, and like hopefully that's all behind us. But I would hope now with our online platform, there would be a much more convenient and easy way to market ice when it's been canceled to get it, right? Like, I don't know if it's an automatic email that gets sent out to all previous and current user groups, or if it's something that goes up on your Facebook page. I don't know what way, shape, or form that is, or like, like I know Norwich, I think, does if ice is there and it's not booked, then within 24 hours of it, it's at a reduced rate to encourage somebody to jump on it instead of it again sitting there idle, because you're not gonna shut down an arena for an hour so you don't have someone there to just open it up again, right? Like, I don't know if those are things you kind of want to look at. I just know from a minor hockey perspective, like 7 days, sometimes that's sometimes tough because things do come up, right? But I wouldn't think the rationale behind it of allowing enough time to promote it to get filled with what you guys are moving to with that online platform, it would hopefully be much easier to fill that. Do you know what I mean? And even for someone to book it, right? Instead of having to call poor Lisa at all hours, you can do it online and get it done and how it is, right? Or through the arena, I guess,
Give
yes.
it back to the arena staff.
You know, the arena staff, but I don't know if that has to do with their job descriptions and whatnot, that's for.
But the
counselors.
program can be there.
The program, yes, I guess, right?
Nikki, if you want to go over, I know we did discuss this for sure last time. If you want to update Ryan.
Yeah. Through you, Madam Chair. Ryan, yes, absolutely. Everything you're saying is accurate. This new online platform will certainly open the door to a lot of new approaches and new ways of being able to do things. We do have everything up right now with the arenas of being able to book anything that's available. You can book it yourself online. We are hoping to move it so that the arena staff are fully versed in using the program as well. So if somebody walks through the door, they can register them in and put the contract in, no problem. But all of that takes time and it takes staff. And right now we are at our max with everything that we have going on. And the shame is we've got this program and we are only scratching the surface of what this program can do. We do not have any administrative staff that have the time and the ability to really dive into it and get things going the way it needs to be. We are working on a new budget initiative that will come forward to council during budget to look at hopefully increasing some of that ability, but that'll be up to council at that point in time. We are doing what we can and we're getting there slowly, but it's just not something that'll happen overnight. But absolutely, the SMS messaging, the automatic emails, that is all there and all capable of doing.
Jamie, did you still want to speak there?
No, Nikki just answered my question right at the end there. Thanks.
Perfect. Alrighty. Yeah, and I think in the draft letter here, we had endorsed the need for another position for a facility bookings clerk.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I need some help there. All right. Let me know when anyone else is ready with further comments or if you guys. Right.
Just one last thing, and it's not in here, and I wonder if it could be, because I guess this is more of on a, I guess from the school board level of things and the ability to run tournaments. If there could be something in there that the school boards would be allowed, you know, if we're running a tournament, not a league, that we would be able to pay non-prime, you know, the $80 an hour to run it, because that would allow us, and I know speaking from experience, it would allow you to run a tournament that is affordable, because tournaments are run as well to help bring money into the school, not just the community, but also into the school to help keep costs down for kids, you know, with all athletics, right? It doesn't just go back to the hockey team, it goes to all athletics in the schools. So you might actually see more schools in this area run a tournament. I know Holy Trinity used to always run a tournament. SES even ran a tournament before, but as soon as the cost went this way, it's hard to convince your athletic program to give, you know, $800 to a hockey team to participate in the tournament, because then, you know, hockey teams also probably have to take a bus because of transportation stuff, and that's gone up through the roof. So I don't know if that's something that could be discussed or looked at to help, again, promote, because, you know, that'd be fantastic, you know, throughout the day when it's not being used, to actually have a tournament there and you're getting that ice used and paid for to a certain extent. Not obviously doesn't cover the full cost, but again, working together with your community to make that happen.
Nikki?
That's it.
For you, Madam Chair. Ryan, I'm just curious, when you're talking your tournaments, are you talking Monday to Friday during the day?
Yeah.
Or are you talking,
Yeah.
You are talking Monday to Friday during the day?
Monday to Friday during the day, because I think it says $135 an hour for, I had it in there. I was looking at it actually the other day to see for ice stats. I think if you're a I don't know what it was. The $135 was the one that actually ended up applying and not the $80. And I don't know if it had to do with the non-prime versus prime, because even in this document, I was kind of confusing at the thing where it says non-prime hours Monday to Friday, 12 p.m. to 5, right? But what is it up till 12 p.m.? Is that
called
considered
morning
prime?
Yeah,
Morning
it's called
prime.
morning prime, and it's I believe the 80 or 85.
80
I'd have
as
to
well?
I use
Okay.
a $3 but yeah. So
And
the
it might have
morning is even cheaper than the afternoon, which is
Yeah.
cheaper than the evening.
Okay, so yeah, I don't know if it's, it might have been changed since then, Nikki, because it's been a while since I tried to run a tournament because of that cost. So maybe if I contacted Lisa again, in the future and we tried to do it,
yeah,
maybe it is that. I could be wrong here, but yeah.
So the only recommendation that I would look at in that case is I mean, you can put it forward to this committee and see what their thoughts are. I mean, if it's the school board, then I mean, in the majority of our facilities, we have the joint use agreement, which is the free, right? With the exception of the permit fee. It's something that you could say, like even the morning prime, like maybe it's a matter of council approving the schools to pay just the morning prime rate. So instead of, depending on, and again, that goes back to council and whether or not they would support a change to the user fee bylaw along that line, but it's definitely something we can discuss.
Okay.
Isn't there a special rate because it's called a tournament? There's a tournament rate or something?
Maybe that is what came into play, because as soon as you say tournament, red lights go off and it
We've
was,
gotta come up with new words.
I guess so, jamboree. Jamboree.
Together.
Yeah, no, my opinion, Ryan, is if you guys want to hold tournaments during the day and we've got, and the rinks aren't being utilized, by all means, we'll take
Yeah,
the
exactly.
tournament.
We'll
So,
come watch.
yeah, we don't have tournament rates in our user fee bylaw. It's all based on whether it's morning prime, non-prime, or prime time. So, or minor sports. But
Fantastic. All right.
I just,
Linda?
yeah, if I can just go back to 2.3, I'm only concerned, I just don't like the word entitlement. I just don't like that word. So is there another word you can use, hours of, and distribution of youth organization? Okay, go through the thesaurus there and find another word for it. I just don't like that. It just sounds like confrontational, the word entitlement. It'll bother somebody. So hours of whatever.
I can certainly see what we can do.
Yeah, words mean everything. It's not what you say, it's how you say it even, so.
And I wouldn't let the general public see option 2,
Oh, you should say it though.
Unless there's wording that
Yeah.
normally specifies this is a.
This is the secondary, look at, not the first, it's not the primary go-to, it's the.
No, because what'll happen is when people look at that, they're gonna say, why is the rep team more important than the local team?
Yeah.
Any further comments, guys?
You gonna say it? You need to speak up.
Well, I just don't like the wording under option 2, where we've got, not option 2, that would be 2 under the hours of entitlement, 2.3, the option 2. I mean, and I know the organizations, yes, everything is divided local and rep, but if this ever, it's just, the organizations don't charge extra. I don't know for rep versus locally, but here it looks like, so registration is $500 for my kid to play hockey. He's not rep material, he's playing local, but I look at this and we'll look at this. The rep teams get more ice time and we're paying the same amount as them. That wording is gonna come back to haunt you.
So rep does pay more.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, there is an additional fee.
Okay,
But I
but
get
that's,
what you're saying because.
but it's not additional for ice time. It's more.
That's what it's supposed to
But it's
be
for-
towards.
It's for their jackets, their pants.
Well, that's even on top of that.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. It's changed, okay.
Yeah, so I get what you're saying there, that this could open up to be like, well, little Johnny's actually not getting this amount of money, so
Yeah.
why is he?
Right.
Because, and that's what I go about.
And
this
I
with
don't
kind of-
think,
Yeah,
I think it should be up to the organizations to
Mhm.
distribute, because maybe a 70-minute game, you don't need a 70-minute practice.
Mhm.
All right, or 85, you don't need an 85-minute practice. If you want to give the bigger guy, older guys, I under whatever anymore. Bantams or midgets, an hour and a half ice. The novices don't need it. So, I mean, it just,
I think it needs to be really clear wording wise what we can come up with, that this policy is what you guys are using, not what minor hockey organizations are using for allocation.
that's right. That's what
That
I'm
needs to be
getting at.
very clearly stated, so that's not confused by someone in the public, that they go to us in an organization say, we should actually be getting this amount and this amount. Why are we not getting, well, hold on. This is what the county uses if there's a conflict.
If there's a conflict.
That's right.
If there's a conflict, this is what the county is gonna use to help resolve that conflict. This is by no means a standard in which the organizations use to allocate how they wanna allocate ice.
Right.
For both hockey and figure skating.
And all,
Yeah. Yeah.
All youth groups.
Nikki?
Ryan, can I keep you? Do you want to just come in and work in my office? Because that is exactly right. It isn't to say that just because we're going to allocate the total number of ice hours for an organization, that they have to actually allocate each team with an hour and a half or whatever. Once we give the hours to the organization, how that organization chooses to separate them out between their teams, that's completely their organization's.
and that's what you gotta tell them, like
Yes.
that's something.
Because like I said, if little Johnny's mommy or daddy sees this,
Yeah.
you know what happens, right?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
We've all been through it,
Yeah,
believe me.
yeah.
Do you remember the Langton Arena, the old doors that were this wide?
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever slammed one of them because a coach pissed you off?
No.
I did, so I know what this will do.
I just see
Only
that.
once.
Just once.
My wife's been kicked out of 3 arenas.
I've never been kicked out of
Just a
the.
friendly reminder that we're in a live recorded meeting and we do need to move along and discuss the actual letter so that we can get, we still have one more agenda item after this.
Thank you.
Oh, we can't hear you. There you are. That's pretty much it. No, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Alrighty, any further comments on the ice allocation policy? No, okay, so we are going to, as we discussed earlier, further review this. And so should we just receive this as information for now?
We can. I'll just have to amend my motion if you give me a moment. So you're going to further review the letter and bring it back to the next meeting?
Well, not to the next meeting, because as Nikki said, like staff can take this information that we've compiled for when they discuss with the user groups. And then after they've had discussion with the user group, before we send it forward to council, we want to see what staff has heard from the user groups first. So it's something that we would not be forwarding it to council right now. It would come back later. So should we defer sending, like we kind of need to defer sending the letter forward because we're not going to do that yet, but we're not in a huge rush. It's not something we're doing in our next meeting because we're waiting for that user group feedback.
Okay, we can defer it to a future meeting is what I can write.
You can write defer.
Yeah.
What do you want to write?
Councilor, you have your hand?
Yes, I'll ask our clerks. Is it possible to put forward a motion that the chair of the committee draft a summary of the committee's discussion to be circulated to committee members and then forward to staff and just leave it at that, and it doesn't have to come back?
And Nikki knows what she needs,
Yeah, and then Nikki can use that in discussions with the other user groups that, you know, here's where we're sitting right now, tell us if that's good or not good. But I don't think there's a need to come back to another meeting and do it again. So is that a legitimate motion?
as long as we see.
So the motion that I have right now is that the Recreation Advisory Committee Chair draft a summary of the committee's discussion regarding the draft ice allocation policy and circulate to staff.
that okay, Nikki?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, I will do that.
You move that, Chris,
Yeah.
okay. Seconder, Chris.
Oh,
All those in favor?
Chris Carter.
Should do say move and second by Christian.
Chris is here, sorry, I should specify. Moved by Chris Van, seconded by Chris Demeester. Okay, all those in favor? And that carries. Okay, on to our next agenda item, which is, sorry, paperwork here, the Engage Norfolk platform. So, I mentioned it would be good to start brainstorming about ideas for survey questions that concern recreation. So I will go ahead, and if anyone has any ideas. Nikki, do you guys have any updates for us about the platform itself?
Nope, if the platform is ready to go and we are able, I think I explained at the last meeting, it's not just a matter of putting up a survey. We can actually put a survey up, ask all kinds of questions. We can actually pose questions for dialogue right on the actual site itself. We could put the proposed ice allocation policy up and ask for comments. If that was another approach that we wanted to take. I think there's a lot of different things that are out there. We've looked at a number of different municipalities. Many municipalities are now doing some of this community engagement because of the impacts of COVID, and things really have changed. The needs have changed, the wants have changed, the people participation levels have changed. So looking at different ways of getting some feedback from people is really what the whole thing is about. So if there's something that this committee is passionate about, that think we really need to get some information out, we've got capital budget and operating budget process starting. We're going to have to be compiling some new capital budget projects to bring forward to council. So now would be the time to get some of that information so that we can build it into the capital budget if it's something that needs to be added in or programming changes, that sort of thing.
Okay. Chris, you don't have your hand up back there, do you?
No.
No, not yet.
So what I would like to suggest is, I think we should work on, as a team, designing a recreational need survey. We can reform this, or we can sort through that. So yeah, if we can brainstorm some questions, I'd love to hear any ideas you guys have on that. Linda?
The community engagement program, you've got this program, Nikki, prepared to go online sort of thing. So isn't that incorporated in it already? Like all these, like for people from out of Norfolk can get engaged on that program, and they can say, okay, if I have 5 kids, what do you offer in Norfolk under, or does it work that way? No?
No,
Type in your
it's not. It's more, I mean, that type of questions would flow through our social media channels and website and direct email, things like that. This is more, and the Engage Norfolk platform is up on the Norfolk County website. If none of you have, if some of you haven't seen it, I suggest you just go to the Norfolk County website and take a look. If you type in Engage Norfolk, you will come up with, there's the Heritage and Culture have a number of things up there. I think there's something up there from the planning department, the building department, I believe, has an Engage platform happening as well. So just take a look. If you haven't seen it, you'll be able to get an idea of what it can do, what it can't do. But it definitely, it is a platform that we can utilize and need to utilize. And a survey would be a great start. So if there's something that you guys think that, we really need to work on, I have staff that are also working on some questions, and we've also been working with communications, and they've been doing some research of what different municipalities have been putting up as well.
Chris Van Passen?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm gonna suggest, everybody have a look at that platform and let's put that on the agenda for another day, because I think that's more the big picture that you wanna have a little bit of look at and try to get that sense of, like, what has changed since pre-COVID to post-COVID? Like, minor hockey registrations are down. Are they gonna be coming back up, or have they found different sports that they like better? Like a lot of the larger urban centers across the province, they're shutting down arenas, but they need to open more soccer fields and
Pickleball.
no,
They got
pickleball,
pickleball.
and they play in Britain and India, cricket.
Cricket.
Because of the changes in the social structure in this country, more and more people are getting involved in those kind of sports. So if you're gonna do the survey, I think that's more what that platform would be for. But what are our priorities? Is minor ball and things, or is it softball or hardball? Because there's a switch there in priorities, and need some sense, and I think staff do too, and we need some input on the longer term, because if we need to build a quad pad arena in both corners, because that would be the geographic center of Norfolk County, and shut down all the other arenas, that's a long process to get there. Do we dump a lot of money into baseball diamonds if we see a definite decline in their use 10 years out? And do we maintain them but not build new ones? We need that kind of input for the long-term planning, and then we still need day-to-day stuff like today, and get some rules around the ice allocation. But I think that platform's a good spot on that long-term big picture, not so much on how do we allocate the ice in Norfolk County, because that you can't win.
No, you can't.
Can we put that on the agenda down the road, or next meeting or the one after that? And
You want to defer this to our July 21st meeting?
yeah, or well, not necessarily defer it, but have the committee come back with ideas, and staff with some ideas on what big picture items that we're looking, because once you get the idea, then you gotta draft the questions that you put there, so that you can ask the question in such a way that you'll get the answer you want to get.
Oh, Jesus. Always manipulate the program.
I have a draft motion, Madam Chair, if you would like me to read it.
Yeah.
It would be that the update on Engage Norfolk be received as information, and that the members of the Recreation Advisory Committee bring feedback on Engage Norfolk to the next committee meeting.
I'll move that, Julie.
Okay. All right. Now before we move that motion, just for you guys for like brainstorming for this in preparation, I kind of was thinking that like a lot of our questions for what we need to know about what questions to be asking, right? Like we need to know what we don't already know. So if we could hear from staff, maybe if we can even just a verbal update of what information we already have, so we don't create this gigantic long survey that takes 2 hours when half that information the county already has access to. So maybe like demographic information, that sort of thing, like what information do we already have? And then from there, we can build on the information that we need, because we need to know like how much money people are willing to spend, what our demographics are, to make sure that everything is going to be like age appropriate for the community and aging community, the time people are willing to invest in travel. And so if we can kind of build questions around those sort of main topics so that it will flow, and then any other ideas, and then also ideas to like promote people actually doing the survey too. So I'm good with that motion. Is everybody else good with that?
Yeah, perfect.
All right, moved by Linda, seconded by Jamie. All those in favor? Okay. So that is our last agenda item. So our next meeting is scheduled for July 21st at 2:30 p.m. Is that okay with
Right,
everyone?
Madam Chair, we have a,
I was just curious, and Nikki, I don't think you're the right person, through the chair, sorry. Nikki, I don't think you're the right person for us, but I was wondering if there's any updates from the side of the county in terms of the Delhi Community Coliseum project, the Delhi Gym. I know they've engaged with Norfolk in terms of the board has, I didn't know if there was any updates or if it's still not to public knowledge yet because things, so just didn't know.
Mom's word.
Mom's word. Mom's word.
Unfortunately, Ryan, there is nothing that we can release at this point in time.
Okay, fair enough. Just thought I'd ask.
Okay, is everyone, oh, Chris?
Councillor Van Passen's looking for you.
Yeah, I just, and through you, Madam Chair, want to remind everybody that Saturday is Community Day in Norfolk County, and all of our recreational facilities will be open to the public. So go up and enjoy all the cool things we got in Norfolk County. Load up your friends, your family, and enjoy the day. So Nikki has already taken care of the weather forecast. So any,
It is going to be a
credit for the
sunny
weather
day.
on Saturday.
The humidity is going to be dropped. I think we're looking at somewhere between 20 and 23 degrees. So it's a perfect day to get out and enjoy everything Norfolk has to offer because we've got some really good things happening.
Yeah, I just
Chris?
yeah, there's still nothing on the sign in Langton.
I have an answer for that one.
Linda?
They're working on the sign. The sign is broken and nobody knows how to get in there and, it's something to do with an electrical wire. And so they're trying to work on that because, yeah.
They're trying to fix the toilet that didn't fix the toilet.
No, I don't know, maybe cut a line.
Yeah, the guy fixed the toilet, cut the wire to the
Yeah.
side.
So anyway, they're working on it because it's not really well advertised at our end. It's unfortunately because of the sign and things, so we're trying to get it out by word of mouth, so, but, there's only so much cake anyway, so what can I say?
There's cake.
Oh, there's cake, Chris. All right,
Guys,
we're
if you
trying hard.
have any issues with our next scheduled meeting date and time, it's July 21st at 2:30 p.m.
Everybody takes a look at it.
Yeah, I gotta go home with
Me too.
Thursday.
You can count on the phone.
Yeah, it's
it's a third Thursday and
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm on holidays, but it'll be
I
good.
might be on the road to Canada.
Yeah. Where is it? Oh, yes.
As of right now.
No, that's good. Next meeting's good for me.
All right, perfect. We will be there with bells on. Okay, if there's anything that anyone wants to bring forward in the next agenda, just email me in between. But otherwise, we'll be talking more about our Engage Norfolk platform and do some brainstorming for survey questions. Nikki?
I do have something to add to, if you want to add to the next agenda. I'm not sure whether our ops director will be available. He did want to come forward and talk to the committee about the live streaming and the potential of implementing live streaming in our rec facilities. So he was wondering if that was something that this committee would like to hear some information on.
Yeah, what do you folks think?
I don't know what live streaming in our facilities means.
So like say there's a hockey game going on, you could actually log in, like it would, the facility would be able to live stream the game so people.
How cool is that? That's cool. I like it. For an old lady, I like it.
I was in the offices at Brant County this morning and they're live streaming like traffic, then it flips to the river, the parks, and it's just a steady little thing. And then I guess you get to pick which one you can actually watch. So I'd love to hear more as well.
Yeah.
So if staff is available.
That'd be great. I would enjoy it.
Yeah, we'd love to hear that presentation if the scheduling works out. Alrighty. Okay, any other business, guys? Chris, you have, no, that's your shoulder. It's my screen's so tiny. Sorry, Chris. looks like you have your hand up, but it's just your shoulders. Nikki?
Oh, sorry. No, I forgot to take mine down. Sorry.
Alrighty, folks. Well, here, what time is it? 3:43. Okay. Well, a motion to adjourn the June 16th, 2022 meeting of the Recreation Advisory Board, or Advisory Committee, sorry, at 3:43 p.m. Can I have a mover? Van Passen, Ryan, all those in favor? And have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good weekend. Take care.
It's Thursday. We have a
I
fitting
know.
meeting.
Thanks, Nikki. Oh, here we are.
I'm just gonna end the recording here.